Welcome guys to a new update, and as discussed today we're going to do altcoins, and again without a webcam as my eyes are not improving at all. So this is really struggling for me to make, but we're doing that as we want to provide content every day. Before I continue, please subscribe to the channel, which you can do beneath this video. Also reply what you think of this video and the content and what you'd like to see, so then we can continue improving this channel. First one we're going to discuss is our friend Zilliqa, and Zilliqa is just doing really fine. You can see a chart with many stuff on it, but the more critical part is that every time there is a range or a block that we're working in. So we saw that during 2019 and 2020 we had this accumulation range. We broke out, tested the next resistance zone, start consolidating for a little while before we break out and run towards the next resistance zone, which can be found here. So right now we see that we had a struggling period. We are consolidating again, just similar to the first test here. Are we going to see further breakouts from here? Difficult to say. Overall, the levels to watch are the levels that I've pointed out here, which are 0.3.5 cents. Not expecting that to be testing at all, but you never know. Upper test zone has been seeing some tests, and that is the range around 0.5 cent. We also see that once we get a consolidation, we might be getting multiple tests of this support zone before we start making higher lows. So on the higher time frame, we can see that we are not breaking resistance yet, but once we break resistance, you can use the Fibonacci extension tool to define levels what you want to see on Zilliqa. First level we want to see is this 12 cents to 14 cent zone, as we can see it on the left here. Second area is the extension around 16, and the third one is a new all-time high. I would not be surprised if we get such a run, if Zilliqa starts to show strength and if Bitcoin calms down, as this is quite often seen on cryptos right now already, that they are accelerating really fast like Aave or Elrond, and then they start breaking those all-time highs. So if you want to get accumulation on Zilliqa, I would definitely argue to look at those zones. If we get a corrective period of Bitcoin, we might be getting a copy-paste of what we saw after the halving in 2020, in which Zilliqa consolidated as well. If we look at the Bitcoin pair, actually quite fine. We are making a new uptrend with new higher highs. However, we have rejected at this previous support zone for resistance, causing this heavy drop down. Broke out of this falling wedge structure after testing the previous range high. What you want to see right now, and this is the first area of support, is that we consolidate for a little while before we start accelerating again. If that is lost, you don't want to see it lose the area around 130 sats, as that is the lowest point here, and you want to keep the higher low balance. So preferably this gray zone is the level to watch for Zilliqa. If that holds, we keep the structure in place, and then we can start accelerating, as usually this goes in a parabolic advancement, and I would not be surprised if we run towards 1200 out of nowhere, causing the dollar value to increase heavily from here. Then we've got another one, which is Cardano, and I'm picking the wrong one here. We've just discussed range highs, right? So we discussed on Zilliqa that it made a breakout towards the next range high, rejected, similar to Cardano, another test and consolidation and continuation of the rally. What we see here is that we're getting in that similar range high construction on Cardano. Doesn't mean that we're going to see a further correction from here, but if we lose the area around 40 cents, we are at a fake out and we're most likely testing this range low again. So if we deduct the previous high and the previous low and make this Fibonacci extension tool, targets are also reached, and if we use those now to define corrective levels, we can actually start implying where those levels are, and you can see that the most critical one is this range here. I'm not assuming just similar as Zilliqa on 3.5 cents that we get a test here, but the gray zone should not be a surprise before we start accelerating heavily. Given the fact that we're also seeing similar figures on Zilliqa, these are the two zones to watch on Cardano, possibly a new all-time high, as everything is just grinding with Bitcoin at this point. If we go to the lower time frames, we can also see, and I'll just erase the little, previous high has to hold. If we lose this area around 38 to 40 cents, this is a fake out, and most likely we're going to test this other side of the range around 28 cents. If we check Cardano against Bitcoin, we can see that we're doing a nice uptrend. Gray zone held, full retrace, flip of the green zone, previous high as well, continued rally, another flip of the level as this used to be resistance, continuation, and this area is the next resistance zone as we can see. Similar construction here. If the 1100 sats levels loses support, very likely that we get such a corrective period before we start to accelerate again. And when we look at higher time frames, we can also conclude that we are building a nice uptrend here in compression, so breaking out of this accumulation range, and I would not be surprised if we run towards anywhere in this region. Then a smaller one, which is still not doing much, but it's waking up. DIA, we have discussed this one on the live stream previously. Green is the resistance zone to break, and we are not breaking through it. We've got a reflection point here, we reject it, and right now we are just consolidating. I would not be surprised that if the market corrects, we get another low test and then we start accumulating upwards, so that we take another time or take the liquidity on the downside one more time. Then we start accumulating or consolidating, and then once we break green, we start to make the new impulse wave, and then it can go really fast, and I would not be surprised if we see a 10x from here. If we check the USDT pair, pretty much doing fine, flipping levels as we just flipped the previous high at 175. If we continue to grind and hold this level at 185, we might be continuing towards $3. However, the Bitcoin pair is showing that we're still at resistance. If this fails, we might be getting such a construction in which we are still in an accumulation period, nicely making an uptrend, higher highs, higher low, before we start going into a parabolic advancement. Very short updates of the markets. I hope you have enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll be back tomorrow with a fresh new update.